Hi everybody, welcome to GTCoding. In this tutorial series, we are designing this home page with a dark mode. And we have started all the way from creating this design in Figma, and now we are in the process of converting this design to code. Now in the previous video, we wrote the HTML of our design, and this is how it looks. And we have also exported all the images from the Figma design, and we have created this HTML file. And this is how it looks right now. Now in this video, we will add the CSS to make it look like this. So let's get started. Alright, let's start by creating some variables for the colors. So let's go back to our CSS file, and here we can see we have already linked our CSS file here in the HTML file. So let's go to the CSS and let's create some variables. So I'll just type :root. Now this will make the variables accessible to all the other elements in our web page. Now here we will add all the variables. Now let's create a variable with the name of dark. So I'll just type --dark. And for the value of the variable, we will have the color. So I'll just type hash. And let's copy the hex code of this color. So I'll just select this. And I'll just copy this color from here. And I'll just paste it over here. So this is the dark variable. Now let's create a light variable. So I'll just type --light. And I'll just copy this hex code. So I'll just select this. And copy this color code from here. And I'll just type hash and paste the code over here. Now let's add the color code for this dark background. So this color is used in this dark mode over here. So let's select this and let's copy this color code. And let's create a variable with the name of dark bg. And I'll just paste it over here. And next we need to have the color code for the light bg. So for the light mode, we have set the color as white. So I'll just set white as the light bg. So I'll just type light bg. And I'll just type white. It's always a good idea to add colors as variables because you'll be able to change the colors over here and it will change in the whole website. Now the last color we need to have is the color of this logo. So I'll just select this and I'll just copy this color code from here and I'll just type logo and I'll just paste the color over here. Right now let's add some resetting styles. So I'll just type asterisk. This will select all the elements in our web page, and we will set the box sizing to border box. It makes it easy for us to calculate the height and the width of our elements. Now I have a complete video on box sizing, so you can go ahead and check that out. Right now let's also reset the margin and the padding. So I'll just type margin 0 and padding 0. Right now let's go back to our design, and now we can see all the margin and the padding is gone. Right now let's add some styles to the body. So I'll just type body. And first of all, let's add the font family. So we're going to use a font called Poppins. So if we click on this text, we can see that we have this font called Poppins. So first of all, let's get the link of the Poppins font from Google Fonts. So just go to fonts.google.com and search for the font. So I'll just type Poppins. And here we have the font. Let's select this. And we need to have two styles. So let's go back to our design. And here we can see we need to have the bold version. And we also need to have the regular version. So let's go back and let's select both the versions. So this is the regular one. So let's click on select this style. And let's scroll down and let's search for the bold version. So this is the bold version. I'll just select this style as well. And now here we have the link that we can copy into the HTML. So let's copy this. And let's go back to our HTML. And I'll just paste the link over here. Right now let's go ahead with the styling. So let's go over here and in the body let's add a font family. So I'll just type font family and we'll set it to Poppins and sans serif. Now let's set the background color of the body. So right now it is just the light color. So it is this variable over here, light bg. So I'll just type var and in parentheses I'll just type --light bg. And we'll also set the height to 100 viewport height, which is 100% height of the screen. Right now we can see we have the font for our design. Now let's target the container division. So if we go back to the HTML, here we can see we have all the elements inside this division with the class of container. So let's target that. So I'll just type .container. Now for the container we're going to set a width. So let's go back to our Figma file and let's see what's the width going to be. And we can see this is the width of the container. So let's add a rectangle and let's see what's the width. So I'll just create a rectangle over here. So I have created this rectangle with the exact width that we want, and here we can see the width is 1166 pixels. So let's set a width of 1166 pixels for the container. So let's go back over here and I'll just type width 1166 pixels, and we'll also bring it to the center. So for that we can just type margin 0 for top and bottom and auto for left and right. This will bring it to the center. So let's go back to our design, and here we can see we have the width that we need. Let me just add a background color and we'll be able to understand. So here we can see this is the width of our container. Alright, let's remove this. Now let's style this navigation menu. So let's go back to our HTML, and here we can see we have created a division with the class of nav container, and in that we have the left division and also the right division. So we want both the elements, one on the left and one on the right. So this logo should be on the left and all these menu items should be on the extreme right. So let's target the nav container division. So I'll just type nav container, and let's set the display to flex so that the elements will be one next to the other, and we'll also set justify content to space between so that both the elements will be on both the edges. So now we can see we have the logo on the left and all the menu items on the right. Now let's also set the position of the nav container to fixed so that it will always be at the top even if we scroll down. So let's go over here and let's tap position fixed, and now we see that all the other elements have moved up. That's because we have changed the position of the nav container. So let me just hide all the other elements for now. So if we go back, here we can see we have a header with the class of hero section. So let's target that, and I'll just set the display to none for now. So I'll just type hero section display none. Right now, since we have set the position to fixed, the width has disappeared. So we have to set the width back to the original width. So let's go back, and here we can see the width that we want is 1166 pixels. So I'll just copy this and paste it over here. Now let's center align these elements vertically. So I'll just type align items to the center. We'll also have some space from the top for this navigation menu. So let's go back to our Figma design, and if I click over here we can see that we have a spacing of 34 pixels from the top. So I'll just type margin top of 34 pixels. Right now let's style this logo. So if we go back to our design in Figma, and if I click on this logo, here we can see for the logo we have a font size of 20 pixels, and we have to set the font weight to bold, and we also have to change the color of the logo. So let's go back and let's type nav container logo. So if we go back to the HTML, we can see that for the logo we have this class of logo. So let's select that, and here we'll just type font size of 20 pixels and font weight of 700, and we'll just set the color to the logo color that we had set in the variable called logo. So I'll just type var logo, and the logo looks alright. So let's style this right part over here. So let's go back to our HTML, and here you can see we have a division with the class of right, and in that we have the menu items, the dark switch and the light switch. Now let's set the display of the right to flex so that all the elements will be one next to the other. So right now it is all one below the other. So let's type nav container right, and I'll just set the display to flex, and we'll also align items to the center. So I'll just type align items to the center, and now we can see all the elements are in the center vertically. Now let's style all these anchor tags. So let's go back to our design, and if we double click over here we can see that we have a font size of 18 pixels, and we have set it to bold as well. So let's go back and let's target the anchor tags. So they are inside the menu items class. So let's target that. Here I'll just type nav container menu items A, and we'll set the font size to 18 pixels, and we'll set the font weight to 700. Let's set the color of the text to the dark color that we had created. So I'll just type var dark, and we'll also remove the underlines by typing text decoration to none. Alright, now let's go back to our design, and here we can see our menu items. Now we need to have some spacing between these menu items. So let's go back to our design, and if I press Alt and hover over this element, we can see that there is 70 pixels of spacing. So let's do that. So here I'll just type margin right, and we'll set it to 70 pixels. We'll also add some hover effects to these menu items. So let's go back. Let's type nav container menu items A colon hover, and we'll set the transform translate Y to -2 pixels, and let's also add a transition so that we'll have smooth animations. I'll just type all to 500 milliseconds. And now for the transform to work, we have to set the anchor tags to something other than inline. By default it's an inline element, so I'll just type display of inline block. And now let's go back, and now we can see we have the hover effects. Alright, now let's style this button. We'll create some styles for all the buttons in general. So I'll just type buttons over here as a comment, and let's add some styles for the button. So let's type a.btn. So all our buttons have this class btn, so it will affect all the buttons in our design. So let's go back to our Figma file. Now for these two buttons we have different height, and for this button we have a different height, but all the other properties are the same. So let's select one of these buttons from here. Let's select this one right here, and if you go over here to the auto layout, and if you click on this button right here, alignment and padding, we can see we have a padding of 12 pixels for top and bottom, and for left and right we have a padding of 32 pixels. And we also have a border radius of 8 pixels. So here we can see we have a border radius of 8. If you go over here to the inspect, we can see all the elements over here. We can also see the CSS over here, and we also have some box shadow. So I'll just copy the box shadow and the border radius from here, and let's paste it over here, and let's set a padding of 12 pixels top and bottom and 32 pixels left and right. And we need to remove the underline, so I'll just type text decoration to none, and we'll set the font size to 18 pixels for all the buttons, and also the font weight to 700. And this is how our button looks right now. Now for this button in particular we have a different padding, so let's go back to our Figma file, and let's click on this button right here, and here we can see we have a padding of 8 pixels top and bottom for this button. So let's go back and select just that button. So here I'll just type nav container menu items a.btn, and let's set the padding of this button to 8 pixels top and bottom and 32 pixels left and right. Right, now let's add the styles for the dark button. So if you go back to our HTML, we can see for the buttons we have this class dark and light. So let's style the dark and the light buttons. So I'll just type a.btn.dark, and for the dark button we will have a background color of var dark and the color of the text to var light. And let's style the light colored button. So I'll just type a.btn.light, and we'll set the background color to the light color. So I'll just type background var light and the color of the text to var dark. And for the light button we also need to have this border over here, so let's also add a border. So I'll just type border 1 pixel solid, and we'll just type var dark. Right, now let's go back to our design, and we can see that our button looks alright. Now let's style these light and dark switches. Now we have to position both of these at the same place, so we'll position that relative to this nav container division. So let's go back to our CSS, and here we'll just add a comment. I'll just type dark light switch. Let's add some styles for that. If you go back to the HTML, we can see we have these classes dark switch and light switch. So let's target them. I'll just type nav container dark switch and nav container light switch, and we'll set the position to absolute, and we'll set the right position to 0 so that it will be over here. So let's type right 0. Now we need to display just one of these switches at a time. So we'll go back to our HTML, and in the HTML we will add a class called active for any of these switches. So if I add the class active over here in the dark switch, then the dark switch will be displayed, and if I add the active class to the light switch, then the light switch will be displayed. So let's go back to our CSS, and we need to have an animation when the active class is added. Let me just show you that animation in Figma. So I'll just present this, and let's click on this button, and we can see that we have this animation where it goes up and the other switch comes down. So when we don't have the active class in one of these elements, it should go up a little bit. So let's go back, and here we'll just type transform translate Y, and we'll set it to -16 pixels. So if you go back to our Figma file, we can see that we have moved this element 16 pixels from the other element. So if you go back to our design, we can see that it has a Y value of 37, and this element, which is the light switch, has a value of 21. So we have moved it 16 pixels to the top. So let's go back over here, and we'll also set the opacity to 0 when we don't have the active class, and we'll also set the cursor to pointer so that when we hover over this we have the pointer. Alright, now let's add the styles for the active class. So I'll just type nav container dark switch dot active, and here to make sure that you don't have any space between these two classes, because we want the element to have these two classes at the same time. And let's also add the selector for the light switch. So I'll just type nav container light switch dot active, and when we have the active class we will set the opacity to 1, and we'll just remove this cursor pointer from here and we'll just paste it over here. And when we don't have the active class, we'll also remove the pointer events. So I'll just type pointer events to none, so that we won't be able to interact with the element when there is no active class. Here we need to set the pointer events back to auto, and we'll set the transform translate Y back to 0. Right now if we go back to our website, we can see that the dark switch is being displayed over here. That's because we have the active class for the dark switch over here in the HTML. And if we remove this active class from here and add it to the light switch, we will have the light switch displayed over here. It is light in color, so we cannot see it clearly. So the active class is working alright. So I'll just remove this active class from here and add it back over here. This is where the active class will belong by default. And now the element is a little bit to the top. It's not aligned perfectly. So let's go back, and we need to add display of flex to the switches. So I'll just type display of flex, and now we can see it is exactly in the center. Alright, now let's style the hero section. So let's go back and let's remove the display none from here, and this is how it looks right now. Now we have to set the elements one next to the other. So if you go back to our Figma file, we can see that the text content is at the left, and then we have the image at the right. So here we will add display of flex, and now we can see both the elements are one next to the other, and we'll also bring it to the center. So let's type align items to the center, and let's add a height of 100 viewport height for the hero section. So here I'll just type height 100 viewport height. Let me just add a background color and you'll be able to see it. Alright, now we want this image to stick to the bottom. So let's go back, and if we go to the HTML, we can see that for the image we have this class called right, and in that we have the image. So let's go back to the CSS, and here we'll just type hero section right, and we will type align self to flex end. So this will align it to the end. Now we can see that the image is at the bottom. Now we have a little bit of space over here at the bottom of the image. Now to remove that, you have to add a line of code to the image. So I'll just type hero section right img, and we have to set the vertical align to middle. Now we can see it looks alright. Now we'll also decrease the size of the image a little bit. So I'll just type height of, let's say, 550 pixels. Now we want this image to be on the extreme right of the hero section. So let's go back, and here in the hero section I'll just type justify content and set it to space between, and now it looks alright. Now let's remove this background color, and now let's style this left section over here. So let's go back to our design, and let's click on this heading, and we can see it has a font size of 60 pixels and a line height of 120%. So let's go back and let's target that. Here I'll just type hero section h1, and we'll set the font size to 60 pixels, and we'll set the color of the font to dark color, and we'll set the line height to 120%. Now for this heading we have a width of 587 pixels. So I'll just copy this, and here I'll just type width of 587 pixels. Now these buttons are on top of this paragraph over here. So we have to set the display of the buttons to inline block. So let's go back, and let's go to the buttons, and here I'll just type display of inline block. Right, now let's add some margin bottom for this heading. So I'll just type margin bottom, and we'll set it to 16 pixels. Alright, now let's style this subheading. So let's go back to our Figma file, and for this subheading we have a font size of 20 pixels and a line height of 170%. So we can just copy the code from here. So I'll just copy these 2 lines of code, and let's target the subheading. For the subheading we have a class of subheading. So let's target that. I'll just type hero section p.subheading, and let's paste the code over here, and we'll also set the color of the text to the dark color, and we'll also set a width for this paragraph. Even for the paragraph we will have the same width. Alright, now let's add some margin top for these buttons. So let's go back, and here I'll just type hero section a.btn, and we'll set a margin top of 20 pixels, and we'll also add some margin to the right of these buttons. So let's type margin right, and let's go back to our Figma file, and we can see we have a spacing of 42 pixels between these buttons. So let's add that over here. I'll just type 42 pixels. Now we'll just add a little bit of margin top for this heading. So let's go to the heading, and let's add a margin top of, let's say, 60 pixels, and that looks alright. So this is our design for the light version of our website. Now in the next video I'll show you how to add the dark mode functionality for our website. So when we click on this button, the dark mode should be activated for our website, and when we click on the light button, the light mode should be activated. So that's basically it for this video. If you have any doubts you can ask in the comments below, and if you like this video please click on the like button and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.